Hello, everybody. Hello. Oh, I have to readjust this one.
Yeah. So we can see the pillow.
There we go.
Throw it out of the screen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is good to be back. We are very excited to have our show running again. Last month, we did take a little bit of time off in this because, as everyone knows, summer is chaotic and we wanted to enjoy some time with our family and then also keep that work balance, healthy lifestyle going there and sneak away to cottages and trailers. I know we all had a great summer.
I feel like we all did so much.
We barely saw each other.
No.
We were like, we'd have a...
Or talked, really.
Yeah, so we got really excited yesterday to hang out, and if you caught our reels, you can see the excitement.
And if you didn't, you need to go to our Instagram and watch it because it was fun.
It was intense.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of people that messaged and said, you guys are crazy. So
Fun,
crazy. Yes, love the energy. So we wanted to jump back in today and just go back over what happened the last couple of months. I know we kind of got a little bit disconnected. I've had a lot of feedback from friends, family, people just wanting to know what's happening. They really rely on this show to kind of get caught up. So here we are today. We didn't bring in any guests because we're just going to give you all of our energy and attention and just dive right in and see what's happening out there. And I know you guys were super busy, so we'll start it off and let us know what happened with you guys.
Like personally?
No, I mean with the market. Like, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? Are you feeling like you know exactly what's happening? Or are we still kind of in a whirlwind?
No. Yeah.
Still
I think very unpredictable at the moment. I feel like we normally see a summer slowdown.
Yes.
But personally, I felt like July was pretty slow, and then August was even slower in terms of showing activity and just the number of transactions, even more so than what we're used to seeing. That was my take on it.
Yeah, and the same. I mean, obviously up in the Shelburne, Melanchthon area, it's even slower than down here. Again, it's just cost of living, but also to your point, like everyone else, just like us, August seems to be a trigger that like, oh God, summer's already halfway over. Yeah. Get out and enjoy it. So like Jess said, naturally it's a slow time. But then when we sat down to compare the numbers, it was actually surprising.
Yeah.
But it's super weird.
I think to your point, like it's pretty normal as a summer slowdown, and we're maybe not as impacted by interest rates, which we'll get into, but maybe we're not feeling that as much as like a normal season. There's always ebbs and flows in real estate.
There is. And I think we're all still just adjusting from like the COVID crazy time where like the number of showings was so crazy on a property in terms of generating an offer, where now I feel like you're really only having serious buyers come out. So it's not taking as many showings to produce an offer.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what's happening too.
And I think that's huge. I think a lot of people, because we've seen such a increase of interest rates over this last year, that people are kind of like, oh my goodness, the numbers are so high, I can't afford this. And there is that so much uncertainty. And then once we kind of see like things plateau and level out and maybe see some drops, I think you'll get a lot more action out there. But for right now,
there's a lot of people on the sidelines.
Yeah, there's a lot, for sure. There's a lot of people.
Interested to see what September numbers will bring.
Yeah.
Because to your point, Sarah, looking at the stats, which we're going to dive into, our whole episode's dedicated not just to numbers for our stats. People, don't run away if you hate numbers. We're going to try to break it down into, it doesn't really make a whole heap of sense to realtors, to mortgage brokers. It seems like everyone's experience is slightly different, but we all have this general feeling that, we are in this recession that they talked about, but it's not the way that we thought it would look.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
But there's still lots moving. There's just so much more option for buyers now, though. Less buyers, more inventory. So we've kind of seen like a flip back to a bit of a buyer's market in that sense.
And I think we've talked about this a few times, is buyers really adjusted quickly to the change in the market. And they were like, okay, now's the time to get a deal. We're going to throw lowball offers every time. And buyers are really trying to get out there and get good deals and negotiate really good, strong offers. And sellers are still kind of trying to hold out like, hey, 2 years ago, my neighbor sold for XYZ. Why can't I get that? So still trying to have everyone adapt to expectations and, really promoting their house to the best ability, because we are seeing movement in the houses, but there are still a lot of houses that aren't moving. So why is that? What's happening?
Well, and I think that speaks to that kind of rhetoric that's happening in the media, where buyers are thinking it's okay to do these lowball offers. Let's test to see how desperate seller is, play on their worries. And then on the flip side of that, sellers are feeling like, oh, well, if prices are coming down, I better take what I can get now, because if I hold out, I don't know if I'm going to get better. So it's really been a change mentally in the whole entire buying and selling process for people.
And something that we did pick up on. So across the board, I mean, for years now, because of COVID, the way the market was, the percentage of like list price to what it actually sold for was always 99, 100, 101, 102.
I think we got up to 107 at one point.
Right around list price, like it is what it is. You might have to pay a little over, but now we're starting to see down to 96%.
Yeah, I think so.
So low balls, not necessarily really happening, at least in our area.
Right.
They're not getting accepted. Sellers still have agents that are educating them on fair market value. But are there deals to be had? Sure. So they're just not insulting.
Right.
So a great time for buyers that have and want a little bit of a deal. But
I think also too, people can use the negotiation, and not just in the price, but in the closing dates and different things that you can get for conditions and stuff like that. Like that's a really great negotiation tool right now. Not necessarily you have to go in and lowball someone, but be creative with your realtor and find out what other options work for you.
And a lot of, so again, we're going to get into all this. I feel like we just jumped right in, but that's okay.
That's
Sellers are really driving the market right now, right? Just with the amount of inventory. And the sellers are the buyers. There's not a whole ton of new buyers or first-time buyers or income buyers, right? Like, so they tend to, how can I word this? Conditions are great. Conditions are fine. We're starting to see back in a normal balanced market, you do tend to have trains of sale of buyer's property.
Transactions,
so if you fall in that category, you have a house to sell, but you're afraid to put in an offer somewhere, give it a shot, because I know any of my own listings, 9 out of 10 offers have condition of the buyer's property in there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely coming back.
And I think that too correlates to like not getting too much of a deal, because it's a big risk for the other seller, but still a little bit of wiggle room. And then gives everybody peace of mind too.
For sure. And even my conversations with realtors on the other end, they're being receptive to that. You're not just getting like, no, I'm not going to take anything. Like you're not in that stance. So definitely it's a great point. I think we do need to touch on the interest rates again. Like this has been the major conversation that we've been having. Everybody's worried about what they're doing. Right now we did see the hold happen. So we're sitting at 5% right now. The economy is showing a weakening. So it's not super strong. It's not flying off the handle. We're trying to reel things in, and by holding, it's allowing us to kind of catch up and see where their numbers are supposed to be sitting. So as of October 25th, we're going to actually get an economy report, and we'll be able to see where we're sitting in the market and what the Bank of Canada will actually have to do. So are they going to raise? Are they going to hold? Are they going to drop? I know that I'm certainly no expert when it comes to economy and how it all plays into it. I have a very broad understanding of it, and explaining it to you, I'm definitely not the best person to do it, but I think that there's definitely some information we can share with you to kind of give you like an overall picture of what it means and why inflation affects housing and interest rates and all the pieces that are playing into it. So if we want to jump into that conversation and kind of educate a little bit on why we're seeing holds versus rates.
And I think we collectively, that's one of the biggest questions we get. Everybody, and we talked about this the other day too, was like, everyone's so in tune with interest rates and the real estate market right now compared to ever before in our career.
I've never had this. And then like to give that context, we were saying, well, we were on the other side of it where it was constantly falling. So you're benefiting from the falling interest rates, right? Where you're not as in tune with, oh my gosh, no, now my affordability is getting out of whack. But yeah, it's like to that point, when we get into the stats for August, we feel like that was a lot of holdback waiting for this most recent announcement. And people were basically waiting to see what they wanted to do based on that announcement, which I can never say in past have I,
but it seems like
so caught up in that.
People are very in tune to a degree. So to Sarah's point, like there's only so much knowledge about how and why it's affecting the real estate market.
Yes. And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation too.
Yes.
How do they accurately count for all the numbers? Like there's always, well, that doesn't make sense, right? When you read the numbers. So
So did you want to dive into a little bit about what we?
Just in terms of the that's the messaging in the media and from the Bank of Canada has been trying to get to this 2% target rate. So July was the last time, obviously they reviewed things to make the announcement. And it was sitting at 3.3%, which they're saying that's largely attributed to gas and oil prices, which they feel like is probably going to stay up there for a little bit. And then they're predicting that things will come down. But then they have to look at, in October, will be this full encompassing report that looks at all of the other factors that they make up the inflation rate, like housing costs, food costs, unemployment rates, costs of just everyday goods and like across the spectrum.
Yep.
So that will be really interesting to have more of a detailed view on what's happening, but they just keep putting that messaging across that they're very committed to getting to that 2% target, and they're not saying that they won't be raising further.
Yep.
Right. So that October, I feel like report's going to be really important.
Yeah, but ultimately we came up with the best kind of easiest way to describe the interest rates and how they're utilizing them to battle inflation.
Right.
Is they're trying to curb the extra spending, that disposable income.
Yeah.
Essentially by making everything super unaffordable. So all of your disposable income is funneling into the Bank of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So you just don't have any. But it's that extra spending that causes inflation to raise.
Which, if you look back in history, and I'm only going to put this into my life experience, or I feel like our demographic, our age group.
Yep.
Going back, like looking at our parents, and I had this conversation with somebody else that works in the financial sector. As a child, did your parents go on vacations down south every year? Did they eat out at restaurants multiple times a week? Did they go to the movies at least once a month? Did they, kids playing rep sports, all of these
$1
things.
million homes and $200,000 cars and trailers and cottages. And
I get that that's like, we're speaking somewhat to a position of privilege, but also like just in general, our whole mentality in terms of consumerism. When we were kids, like you literally were working to put food on the table and a roof over your head.
Yep.
And our everyday lives have become so skewed out of that. It makes sense when you look at the big picture of how everything has become so inflated, and we've got to kind of get back down to the basics, or it's never going to end. We're really going to dig a hole.
A report came out recently and it said Canada, and I can't recall exactly, but it said either we are the number 1 or in the top 5 for the amount of household debt.
Yep.
Globally.
Yep.
Does that not blow your mind?
Well, you look at our country compared to other countries, and we are so materialistic. We are so eager to step up and keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
And yeah, like my son brought home a book from the library the other day that literally talked about cars from the beginning of evolution, and cars back in the day. Everybody could afford a car. Kids would go out and buy cars. Like everybody had a car. And then they just kept growing and growing. And then you added trailers to it. And like, it's just, a basic vehicle now is averaging $45,000, $50,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then gas on top of that, insurance. Like there is a lot of money going out the door, and we're doing less saving and preparing for the future. But also our mentality, I find now, is you're not going to be able to spend it when you're dead. So like, I think that's kind of changed. Whereas our grandparents were setting up the generations to follow. And
you can't spend it when you're dead. But one of the craziest things that I've kind of personally put together, and all of like realtors know a bajillion mortgage brokers, and we talk constantly because our businesses are so intertwined.
Yes.
The amount of brokers lately that have talked about their personal, in their personal aspect, that they are removing money from bank investments. They're squirreling it away. They're saving in different ways because they're preparing for the worst. Like they want to be able to access their own money and have a nest egg in case anything crazy happens, because that's what our society is not preparing for.
Right. Yeah.
Like if we're in the recession,
right.
But if there is a full blown, like what we all picture the recession in the 40s to be, we're in trouble.
Right.
But then again, like, is that actually going to happen? So this is the ongoing debate.
No, but it's again,
our systems.
So we talk about our parents and their parents.
Yeah.
They all prepared for retirement.
Yes.
And like right? It was all
Or
about
held,
putting money
held
away.
like cash accessible
cash
Paying
asset,
off their
right?
mortgages was
Yeah.
the most
Most-
important thing
Yes.
to my parents and my husband's parents.
Yep.
But our generation, it's like just
No
take
one's gonna
on more
pay it
debt.
off. Yeah.
It's fine. Just
no,
take
it's
on
used
more.
as a debit machine now.
Yeah.
Yeah, refinance.
That is what they are trying to curb,
Curb, which I don't disagree with.
right?
When you look at it that way, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to the answer the bajillion messages we get when we try to advertise a property on Facebook or
Bajillion.
marketplace.
Oh my
bajillion.
Bajillion messages.
If you really want to feel down about yourself and you want to get beat up, post a house for sale on Facebook.
Even better, post a lease.
Oh,
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting to me, the like politically toned conversation that comes from it. And in
100%.
terms of an affordability aspect, like it's true, we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot,
Well,
and
what
it's
are
just
we
going to
doing?
get worse.
Without going into the rabbit hole, but
Right.
realistically, we're bringing in thousands of people, 45,000, 50,000 people, and we don't have the infrastructure for it. We don't have the housing for it.
Mhm.
And then you're also going to then say, okay, Mr. Builder, go and build me 50,000 more homes, but I'm going to tax you out the wazoo to be able to put these houses out there, and they can't afford it. It's not
Yeah.
affordable for a builder to go out and build en masse. And then people have nowhere to go. So yeah, it's pushing the pricing up. So
But that's where there's this fine line between housing and employment, because we have immigration funneling in to address the employment shortage that we were experiencing post-COVID. And even now, like that was a true definition of recession, is to push unemployment levels high. We haven't seen that yet. The
No.
job demand is still there. So people are coming here to work. There's jobs here for them, but there's nowhere for them to live.
Yes.
So we have a twofold problem on our hands here that there seems to be no easy answer to.
right.
Yeah, definitely not. And, again, we touched on that in our conversations, and this is just our own opinions. I'll asterisk that. But,
Yeah.
the government's plan to build all this extra housing is so flawed that we don't really see an end to, like, we've obviously seen a static, like a pause in pricing increases, at least here in the Dufferin area. Up in my area, prices did come down a fair bit, although when you look at year over year, but we're looking at right at the end when interest rates started going up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long uphill battle to fight this for sure.
And even to that point in terms of pricing, I think that, again, we were so used to like 13, 15% equity gain year over year during COVID. We've gone back to, we didn't see the bottoming out. So we're back to a healthy 3 to 5%. Like if you look month over month over month over month, we're not having a huge, yes, we've come down from the peak.
Sure,
but
but the peak
now-
was absurd. Like,
yeah.
we shouldn't have ever gotten to
No,
that.
there needed a correction to happen.
Yep. No, but I think where the big disconnect is, and we already said that, we feel sellers are kind of, I'll say kind of responsible for causing the slowdown as well, because their expectations are still so high,
Yes.
Yeah.
but they want to buy on the lower end.
Right.
But at the same time, year over year, statistically, 5% was an awesome return on your investment of a home.
Yep.
And I got into a conversation the other day with a seller, and we were looking at when they bought their house. I think the first 10 years of them owning that house, because they bought so long ago, it was maybe 1%.
Yeah.
Maybe year over year for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, bam, 2017 happened. And then bam, COVID happened.
Yeah.
And they're sitting pretty.
Yeah.
But the problem isn't them. It's the COVID buyers that were promised. Don't worry, your interest rate's going to be fine. You can afford this house. So they've overpaid. They've lost a ton of equity. And now they're being told, if you want to sell your house, you have to take a hit.
Right.
And of course, they don't want to do that. And just understand that's where a lot of them are coming from. That's why their house is for sale. And a lot of the landlords are in the same boat. Where they bought an investment property thinking their payments would be $2,500, $3,000, and now they're $5,000.
This is only for the people that are on variables, though, or if they had to re-sign with an income.
But who didn't go on a variable when they were 0.25?
I mean,
but you could have locked in.
You could
by
have locked
now.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I mean, somebody may have gone fixed. So don't think that everybody out there is
in the
on a
same
variable
boat.
and they're all losing out on their houses and
Yeah.
they're all going to sell, because to be honest, like I hear people saying that in conversation, and then I'll be like, well, who do you know?
Yeah.
Who do you know that is actually
Yeah.
stepping away from homes? Sure, I know a couple people that are like, you know what, my investment property doesn't make sense anymore. My
Yeah.
variable has increased my mortgage so much that we're selling off that, or we're working extra hours to make up the income and pay off these
Or
things. But
making rental properties
making
in the
rental
basement
property,
to
yeah.
supplement. Yeah.
People are being very creative. They're working their way through it, but I don't see a ton of houses coming onto the market by power of sale. Like you do
No.
see the here and there.
I
No.
think
So I
people
think
are
that's
trying
what
to
people
get ahead
think
of it.
though. Like I really think when I'm having conversations with people, like let's say at baseball in the summer, like I had people come up to me like, oh, all of these people are losing their homes. And I'm like, who?
What?
Where?
Yes.
Because I'm not seeing this.
No.
And I'm literally looking at houses every single day and I'm not seeing this happen. And I don't know everyone's story, but there are the people who have gotten stuck in this really shitty situation where they had to resign and the interest rates are high. If I had to resign right now, my husband and I talk about it all the time. It is very high. It would probably be unaffordable. If we would have to probably rent out, or we would have to come up with some sort of creative way, but it is being done. It sucks.
Well, that's what we were
it's
saying. We're
being
going
done.
back to that, like either downsizing where you're saying sellers are driving the market. It's
Yeah.
the transfer over. Like we were saying, porting mortgages has become really big again because
Yeah.
they're taking advantage of what's left on their term of that low rate. And whether they've got to get a bigger house because of lifestyle situation or whatnot, but there seems to be a lot of downsizing or downsizing markets
Yes.
in terms of affordability and to keep afloat.
Interesting fact too, I heard this morning, a mortgage broker friend of mine said that she has never done so many reverse mortgages as she did last year.
I was surprised to hear that too
The
from
elderly
somebody.
population,
Yeah.
like the aging population, because they plan for their
Can you
retirement.
explain this? A reverse
A
mortgage?
Yes.
reverse mortgage, everyone knows the commercials of the chip mortgage,
Mhm.
where basically it allows you to stay in your home, you still own your home, but you dip into your equity
Mhm.
for disposable income.
Almost like a home
essentially.
equity line of credit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially. And she was saying, you know, historically in her 30 years of doing mortgages, she may have done one,
And they're not common.
maybe two in a year.
Yeah.
And last year she did 8. And it's mainly because these people were planning based on affordability factors when they were working,
Right.
which are now double, triple,
Mhm.
and they can't afford to live.
Well,
So
you
they're
think
either
of-
downsizing
Mhm.
or liquidating and
And
going
You look
into
at
I
people who
think
are
that
retired and can't make
condos,
extra money.
yeah.
Well, I think that it speaks to the affordability for that entry level housing. Like that's the stuff that's gotten really out of control. So
Yeah.
if you would live in an existing detached or a semi or even a townhouse and you're going to downsize now to a condo, condos are costing almost as much as what your townhouse
Literally,
is.
I'm
Yeah.
looking
So
and
you're
they're
not-
more
you're not
than
gaining.
detached houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even from a rental perspective.
Yeah.
If you have no mortgage and now you've got to go and pay $3,000 a month in rent, then, or, $2,500 even, like,
condo fees.
right? It's, yeah.
But I
can
do
see
like
why
I
that
think
makes more
there's
sense.
going to be more of a surge of people that will probably, like to your point yesterday, there's a lot of people selling and not rebuying. Maybe we will see a surge of people
Yeah.
going and renting, but even that doesn't make sense to your point. So maybe people are going out of province.
But it doesn't, they're not selling and renting because it makes sense. They're selling and renting because they have to,
right.
because at least then they've got liquidated assets.
Mhm.
They can make their payments on their cars. They can afford their groceries,
Mhm.
and they don't have the overhead and continued maintenance of owning a house, the property taxes, all of those kind of unexpected
Right.
types of things.
Right.
Only the unexpected of when your lease is up.
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people though need to understand, like your point though, leases are so expensive too because
Yes.
of all of these investors who have had to re-sign in this peak when the
Mhm.
interest rates are high. And you think an investor went from $2,000 mortgage to $4,000 mortgage.
Mhm.
As an investor, I'm providing a household, but I'm also not going to lose money so that you can live.
Yes,
It's just
yes.
not human nature, right?
No.
So
But a lot of them are.
Mhm.
there definitely are, but there are some people who are trying to recoup. Like if you have a tenant, there's nothing you can do. You're losing money.
Yeah.
You can't get your money back on that. Like you can't go and be like, you need to pay $2,000 more. But for the new people that are getting new tenants in, they are trying to charge a little bit more to cover their costs.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people don't understand that. And I think that's the marketplace, like
100%.
dilemma,
That we get
the
attacked with.
understanding
Yes.
Yeah.
or lack of
That
understanding.
the prices that we're putting out there are A, directed by our clients,
Mhm.
B, directed by market and market value and what similar properties it rented for.
Yep.
And C, their mortgage, like
Yeah.
what their carrying
Able to afford.
costs are on that property, right?
Right.
And it's finding a sweet spot. But yeah, poor Jess.
So I think to round that all up, basically go back to more basic living and for the next little while, be a little more frugal and precise on what you're spending on. Maybe you do a little less traveling and you put a little bit more money aside so that you can save for rainy day.
That was the context of the conversation with Chloe when we filmed our humorous pool reel.
Another
mortgage broker that we're friends with, and that was her like the tone of her conversation now with people is you have to rebudget yourself. Like this is what it's come down to. We're all having to do it.
Yeah.
So and not a bad thing. So
no, I think we all need to get back to basics for sure, and
focus
on the people and the connections and not the things.
The things, true.
Mm-hmm. But if we all do that collectively, we'll see this end sooner than later, I hope.
Right.
I hope. And then hopefully we're better prepared if this ever happens again.
Did anyone have any questions for us on that topic, or maybe something, a headline you've read in the news and you just wanted some more context or info? Please comment in the chat. If someone wants to let us know how our sound is today, we forgot to do that at the start. Hopefully it's good.
Nobody said it's terrible.
Instagram.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to be rude looking at my phone. I'm watching us.
Right. Maybe we'll dive into some stats now too, to kind of let you know exactly what's kind of happened over the summer and over the last couple months.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to start with Orangeville?
Yeah. So I think for Orangeville, what you've kind of heard us say in this conversation is that we've kind of come back to like a plateau. Things aren't crazy. Things aren't dire. We actually are seeing, we did see 30 sales in the month of August, which was very comparable to last month. But sorry, I lied. It wasn't. Okay, so this is the conversation we had again. So I was like, okay, well, there was 30 this month and there was 44 last month, but then there was also 44 last year. So it's not that big of a difference. It's only 14 sales. And the girls were very clear to say 14 is a lot.
Percentages.
Let's look at percentages.
Yeah.
So percentage-wise, we are 40% in Orangeville. We're 40% lower in Orangeville. But then I was like, okay, well,
compared to July.
Compared to July or compared to August of last year.
Yeah.
So it was the same amount last year. So actually I was like, okay, well, is that just Orangeville or is that Dufferin County as a whole? And looking at Dufferin County as a whole, we're actually level with
the same number of
last
sales.
Year. So Orangeville seems to have taken a little bit of a rollback, but is it the rural properties that are bringing up that number and holding the number still being strong? I know at the beginning of the summer or at the end of the spring, I was like, what season was that? At the end of the spring, we were talking about how rural properties had really slowed down because we were thinking, okay, well, people aren't being able to stay at home. They're going into the office a little bit more. People get a little bit get really intimidated by the amount of snow and upkeep. So then in the summer, has it picked up? And maybe that's because people are finding that it is too much work. There's an increase in cost to maintain your land now. Are people kind of selling in that, or has it just become too much overhead with taxes and interest rates increasing? Are we feeling that sort of pressure? So it'll be interesting to see in September where our numbers kind of roll out, and are we plateaued in this like 30 sales per month, or are we going to maintain and go back up to that regular level? As Orangeville seems a little bit slower. I know you'll talk about Shelburne in a minute, but our average price is about $843,559, and that's very close to what we've seen in the past. I mean, in July 2023, we were 843 as well, so we didn't really see much of a difference there. But in 2022, we did see 875 as our average. So there's been a bit of a drop there, but not overly significant.
No.
I mean, percentage-wise.
Right.
Yes. It's all about the percentages.
So right now we have about 77 active properties in Orangeville. They're sitting for about 20. Yeah,
Shelburne has more inventory than Orangeville.
You'll explain.
Which is the most we've seen in a long time, though. We've covered 40 properties forever.
1 or 2, and we'd be so mad. Like, what are we supposed to do with this? It's nice to have the inventory and have options and be able to go out and find the perfect house that you're looking for. And buyers are being way more picky because I'm not going to just jump and go into another house if I have to increase my monthly expenses. It has to really make sense, or there's something in my lifestyle my life that's changing and I have to make that move. So real estate is being more subjective and people are thinking about their expenses a little bit more.
Can I just interject for a hot minute?
Absolutely
totally throw you off. No? Okay, I'm doing
I'll take it.
I did notice, talking about that there's more inventory on the market generally in Dufferin. 3/4 of it is from agents, not from our area.
Guys,
Whoa, that's not good.
local friends.
And I'm not just
What is
talking listings. I'm talking when you get down to the nitty gritty and you look at the selling
Sales,
agent
too.
and the co-op agent, the buyer's agent. So many of them are from out of town.
Wow.
It's very, very difficult for us to swallow when we already have such a small market to begin with. And these agents coming from Toronto or Peel region, like, stay in your own area.
I remember being younger and real estate agents weren't allowed to service outside of their bubbles. Like they went to one board and that was the only area they were allowed to work in.
Right.
It's so different now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to talk about, we'll dig into the longer days on market. Got a call yesterday. And it's not that they can't do their job up here. They can. I mean, I've listed houses in other areas, but our own economy and like protecting and supporting your own community.
Support local.
Yeah, guys. Like there's so many amazing agents to choose from that don't need to drive an hour to get up here and they know the areas. So can you at least interview? Thank you. Same point. Like interview who you bought your house with, but it's so much easier to help someone buy than to maybe sell in an area you don't know. But yeah, just a point I wanted to bring up because
I think
those
this
numbers
was a good
are
conversation
shocking.
that we had yesterday though with another realtor when we went on the agent tours, and a lot of the immigration from Brampton, Toronto came up to our area. And that's the agents that they know. So is it because
who helped them, right?
Yeah.
Are we not getting out there enough? Like, is there something more? Do we need to go back to door knocking and interrupting people's dinner so that you remember that there's local realtors?
I also think a lot of it too is either the investment properties and they live in the city, which might be easier for them, but there's electronics and signatures. Just keep
There's
us
so
in
many
mind,
things,
okay?
Yeah.
There's lots of realtors up here, lots of amazing realtors.
I know three awesome.
Pretty awesome. There's other really good ones too.
Just a shameless plug there.
No, but it is true. I think being able to support people locally, but also like having this is an interesting thing that we've kind of noticed lately, the amount of buyers that are coming into open houses, if people actually show up, but coming into open houses and not coming with a realtor. They have a realtor, but they're probably out of town. So they don't want to bother them to come to town.
So we all know Southgate, Dundalk is notorious for this because it's extra 15 minutes from Shelburne. How many phone calls I got because our marketing strategy for this property was no open houses. They're a waste of my time, my client's time, and money better spent on newspaper advertising, whatever. I swear over 15 phone calls. When is your open house? From agents directly admitting they have no interest in driving up unless the client likes the house.
Oh my God.
So they want me to host an open house to show
what
it to
are
their
you getting paid
clients.
commission for?
Right?
Like
that's
I'm
terrible.
sorry, but we're not
Again,
getting a small amount of money.
Then
for what we're
refer
doing.
it to an agent who is willing to show up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And referrals, that's another good thing. A lot of people don't realize, like we do have the option of referring. So if you have an agent from the city and you really love the work that they did for you and you don't want to just leave them hang and dry, we can sort out referral options. So you can say, hey, Mr. Agent, you did a great job. Yeah, I have an agent that can work with me every single day, be at like, hey, I need to get here at 4:00 and be there for you instead of driving an hour and a half from the city. Have that option as a local realtor, and then we just pay out a referral to them. So we set up some sort of commission.
You can keep them in the
Keep
loop
them happy,
too. Yeah.
I mean, there's no harm in having your realtors work together. Or like I have a client that's far away from here. They have an agent that's going to list their house. They're going to buy here. I'll help them here. So the two agents work together.
Red flag if they're really against this because
Yes.
it's all about them and it's not about you as the client anymore.
No, that's not good.
So that's my
Side
piece.
down.
Good plug. We went a little sideways there, but
back to Orangeville stats with Sarah DeBoer.
I don't know how to play off that. Okay, so anyways, I think for Orangeville, we pretty much went over everything for the pricing. It is what it is. We're in an okay market. It's not crashing. We're pretty stable. If you are looking to make a move, just talk with your mortgage brokers and see if it makes sense and start getting out there and looking at houses. There's a lot of great options in Orangeville right now. There's a lot of like little diamonds in the rough and you're like, oh wow, I didn't even one sold yesterday. I don't even remember it coming on the market. And I was like, oh, you're really cute. Where'd you come from?
Right?
Like, There's a lot of great options out there.
And if you want to drive 20 minutes north, there's some actually affordable homes for sale in Shelburne with our 85 active listings. So just to key point, the one big takeaway I took from Orangeville stats was the days on market are actually seem to be reflective of the market this time. They did shoot up to 27 days, the average listing on market, which in a stable pre-COVID market, we're talking 60 to 90.
Yeah. So fast.
Still fast, but July was 17. So it seems like a massive jump, but I think it's just more accurate.
Right.
I think there were some really great properties that came up though that a lot of people were very interested and wanted to get them quickly. Like there's a lot of stuff that came up with pools, a lot of like nice renovated homes that people were snagging.
I think all the pools were Jessica's.
I don't know what happened this summer with pools.
It was the summer of the pools. But we've talked to other agents that have had the listings. Like this is another bonus. We talk to the local agents and we know what kind of action they're getting on their houses. And how many of them have said that they've gone into multiple offers and in a certain price point, that 1.1, 1.2 was a very good spot to be this summer. And there was a lot of action in there. There's also a lot of people, to our point earlier, coming in with those low ball offers that were like, you're in that field. So, I mean, good stuff out there too.
And to Sarah's point of, you know, the sweet spot in Orangeville kind of being that 1.1, that then there's like a huge leap to 1.6 and nothing in between. So
it's very
collectively
strange.
we seemed to think that that's why that's such a hot price point, because there's not really anything slightly above. It's like you can have this, you know, really nice luxury car, or you can have this Rolls Royce.
Well, and I feel like all of the inventory of the 7 or 80 homes or whatever there is between 800,000 and $1 million.
8 million, I want.
No, 800,000 and $1 million. There's a ton of in those price ranges. But yes, there's not a lot of higher end stuff now at all. Yeah.
But and then like to that point, there's not the in between. There's the nice, spacious 4-bedroom cookie cutters. Or the $1.6 million estate homes. There seems to be kind of nothing in the middle ground. So the 1.6 is taking a long time. They're sitting on the market a long time. And then these ones are going like hotcakes.
I mean,
selectively.
Shelburne.
So Shelburne has continued to be slow. Days on market, again, just like Orangeville, days on market in this case though are way off. We are right in the cusp now where we're going to start seeing terminated listings. So terminology, I'll break it down. If you put a property up and all those sellers that just want to see if they can get the higher price, and it doesn't move 2 weeks, a month, whatever. Best strategy for us as an agent is to take the listing off, like cancel it or terminate, and then relist it as a new listing at the new price. Now, the reasoning behind that is every single one of you probably gets those emails, new listing, new listing. That's the intent, is we want to get your newly reduced price in everyone's inbox. But it directly messes up the days on market. So Shelburne is saying Shelburne is saying that it's a 15 days houses are selling. That is so not true. Last month in July, we were at 33, which I think is a little more reflective, but we still have a very unsettled price situation happening here. Mainly because I keep blaming it on this Emerald Crossing development. It's turning into a beautiful development, but still so many of the buyers in there got caught up and they bought these houses for a lot of money, assuming they don't have to commute anymore, and now they can't close on them, but they paid through the nose. So you've got anywhere from $560,000 to 1.6 in the town of Shelburne. It's a small town. We shouldn't have that kind of gap. I can tell you right now, there's no houses worth 1.6 million directly in Shelburne.
I think there's like that one little nook that maybe
that's technically Amaranth.
Okay.
Behind No Frills is technically Amaranth.
Sylvanwood Estates.
Yes. So take that with a grain of salt. I still think personally we're seeing 30 to 60 days average sale if you're priced right. If you're not, it's going to be a long wait, guys, because there's just simply too much for buyers to choose from. So again, that takes us to 85 active listings. We are seeing about a 98% list to sale price. So that means the ones that are getting terminated and trying to find the right price, once they find it, they're selling pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And pretty close to list price. So the overall average is 724 in Shelburne. That's going to be a big shock to a lot of people.
But we're in that 100,000 mark again, because before COVID, remember we got so close together between Orangeville and Shelburne. Before that, it was always like $100,000 difference.
Yeah.
Kind of making up for that time and extra time in your car, and we're back there.
We're back to that.
We've been there for a while now, so it's interesting that we've
And
corrected in that way.
This is reflective of 3 semis, 3 townhomes, and 12 detached. So our semis are significantly older, most of them, and we've seen a lot of older, smaller detached come on.
Right.
So take that with a grain of salt, but yes, that is pretty reflective of like how COVID has rebalanced our pricing in Shelburne.
Right.
So if you are in a lower budget and want some stuff to choose from, come on up to Shelburne. I would love to help you. Year over year, we're pretty much the same, except for inventory is way up.
Way up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not interesting though, we were saying not reflective of a ton of listings in the new development. Like there's a lot of assignment sales prior that was like really skewing the numbers, where now like, no, this is like actually.
And that's because a lot of these assignment sales have now closed.
So you can move into these homes right away.
And now they're selling.
Right.
So they've closed. The sellers have had to swallow the fact that they're going to lose money.
Yeah.
They're relisting them for reasonable prices and they're selling.
Yeah.
They're beautiful homes.
Yes,
some of these lots are fantastic.
Yeah.
But 1.6 is a stretch for the Shelburne area and a cookie cutter subdivision.
Yeah.
So it's just that from the builder to the actual owner now.
Right. Adjustment.
That's the big difference.
Right.
None of them sold an assignment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No. Okay. Caledon. We thought Caledon would just be another kind of touch point to show some interest on. And in terms of, we tend to see movement up this way as well.
And
Or
we're also super shocked to find that like it was quite, like we're getting feedback that it's quite slow.
yes. August saw 44 sales, which is down from July that saw 65 sales.
Wow.
Active properties hasn't changed too much. It was a difference of 20, but that's like 300 properties in total. So yes, when I've been kind of having a detailed eye on Caledon East specifically, and it has really slowed down, both in terms of transactions and in terms of new listings coming on.
Right.
There's not a whole lot available at all. So that average price, though interestingly, has kind of stayed stagnant. Like there hasn't been a real big change. When you look at August of 2022, we're down pretty significantly. They had 63 sales last August, 260 active. We're at 292 active now, so a slight gain. But days on market is virtually the same. 25 days on market, again, could be skewed with terminations and relists. But price gain, you're at 1,311,000 roughly in August 2022 as a total average price, and we're sitting at 1,337,000. So again, we're back to that healthy 3 to 5% increase, despite there being less transactions happening.
So once those start picking up, then it will start feeding up to us, and we'll probably start moving a little bit faster too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I found like in the spring, there was a lot of talk of like Bolton, Caledon East area cashing in for like townhomes and then upsizing to a detached here and basically doing like a lateral move.
Right.
Towns in Caledon are crazy.
That townhouse 956,000 as the average right now.
I feel like a lot of that movement is like that subdivision right by the 410 there. Like just
there's a lot of that in the Strawberry Fields. Yes. There's a lot of turnover there.
I was driving down the other day and they've got all the proposed signs up for the highway to come through 413. And I was like, I wonder how this is going to play. Like, I think that area is just going to skyrocket. There's going to be so much development. And I mean, are you sitting on a gold mine?
Yeah.
But now that prices are back to being like, even during COVID, they were still there's Caledon, and then you get a little bit cheaper to Orangeville and a little bit cheaper to Shelburne. And then there was a point where it was kind of all the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now I personally feel that this is why Caledon is slow right now. People cash in their towns for $960,000. Come get a monster house in Orangeville
with the giant backyard and
there's tons to choose from.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I
But
think
again,
everyone
even
feel that.
doing the lateral, like if you have, well, the lateral you're okay, but if you had to do that step up, the affordability became not a smart move. So you'd have to stay in that. I mean, you could probably get to that 1.1. So is it the townhouse guys that are coming into that 1.1?
I think so.
The lateral, that's a good point, actually. If they went townhome to townhome, they're putting cash.
You're putting cash.
Yeah, because we're at like 800,000 for a townhouse now.
And I mean, that would help you get the investment property. So maybe you're setting yourself up that way.
What do you guys think fall market? Like personally, I feel like the interest rate announcement did bring some people out. The hold brought people out that were waiting.
A little more confidence.
A little more confidence. Yeah. So what do you think though? What do you think is going to happen?
I think naturally fall market is going to make people get back into the market thinking about real estate again. Maybe the Christmas coming up or your seasonal stuff always drives people to get in for the holidays.
Yeah.
I still think there's going to be uncertainty until we get another interest announcement. I'm not confident that, like, I have a lot of buyers on the wayside right now that are just waiting for the perfect home,
right?
The perfect move in the right price range. I think my first time home buyers, I still have some that are hoping the market's going to crash. I keep telling them it's not going to happen. But I think it's
dipped as low as it's gonna.
Yeah,
I think so. Too. I think prices are, and I fear for the people that are sitting there waiting for it to crash. And when interest rates come down, you look at right now, you have your interest rate and you're getting to be approved and you don't have a big enough down payment, you have to add 2% onto that to get an approval amount. So let's say you're sitting at 5% and you have to tack on another 2%, you're getting approved at 7% to make sure that you can cover your mortgage costs. Once those start coming down, affordability for people is going to start increasing. All of these buyers are going to slowly start could be coming back in because they were kind of cut out when interest rates went up. Their affordability shrunk.
Yeah.
But as it starts to grow again, all of these people are going to come back in, and it's going to drive the prices up. The
What's
demand
that old
is going
saying is, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's that whole like. I predict too that we're going to see a change in the types of ownership. You're going to see a lot more like joint ventures, families going in on places together. The whole like co-signers, the whole thing of like getting family members to move in with you and having an in-law suite, that kind of thing to help affordability. Like there is still a supply and demand issue at the heart of everything.
Well, I think it also comes, like, you can tie in the conversation with Ford government trying to allow more building onto properties.
Yeah,
so
multiple dwellings.
I think those are going to become very big.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Melanchthon does allow this.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I think, like, if I'm looking as a mother of 2 small children and I'm thinking, okay, 30 years from now, realistically, by the time they can actually afford to get into the market, are they even going to be able to, or do I need to make a move to be able to either help them get in? So do I need to get investment properties? Do I need to put more money aside for them? Do I need to buy a piece of property that I can build a second dwelling?
Wow.
So I think this generation is going to start looking at
that point.
Yeah.
Somebody, this is not my thought, but somebody the other day said, they feel that the government is trying to make a generation of renters.
100%.
I actually saw that as a future, like maybe like 15 years in the future, becoming much, because of affordability, becoming much more like Europe, where you go back to, yes, a predominantly rental society, and it's all going to be little flats, and density is a big thing. I think you're
going to have, again, this is a debatable topic, but I believe on this side that there's going to be more of a disconnect between the lower class and the high class, or like the rich. I think you're going to have people who can afford the properties, and everybody else is just going to.
Yeah, they're cutting out the middle class.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be back to that whole, your comment earlier where you said you can afford to have food on the table and a car and all these things and not worry about
a lot of people are already there. Mortgage broker this morning was telling, I had a very long chat with my mortgage broker friend this morning, prepping for the show and just, their opinion and what they're seeing. It's always interesting to see their side. And she was like, yeah, I had this little old lady needed to do a reverse mortgage because she had a $500 CRA bill and she could not find room in her budget. So she had to do a reverse mortgage to pay off her $500 debt.
Oh, that's terrible.
But that's how strapped some people are. Like, you know, to most of us, okay, I'll throw $50 on it a month or you know, whatever, $100 because it's there.
Yeah.
But if you're living on government assistance and you've literally planned for XYZ and now inflation has totally screwed that up. Like I remember being in a dollar store and like an old couple like counting their change to pay for stuff.
But that's also they were taught and brought up that way.
Yeah.
Which I think our generation was so, oh my gosh, for the first time, we're really experiencing this upper middle class. And we weren't necessarily taught how to plan and prepare.
No, school taught me nothing. School sucked.
Financial literacy is going to become a very important part of our 100%. Education system.
I hope so.
That needs to be implemented.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah, we're on our timeline pretty well.
I mean, we do a really good job of filling space, just the three of us.
Yes.
So I think next month we're hoping to kind of like give us feedback if there's anything you want to see from us or guests that you think would be important for you to see. We were talking about maybe doing like a fall maintenance type of thing and see if anybody is interested in that and how to prep your home for the winter. There's a lot of things out there that you should be doing that you maybe don't realize.
Yep.
Also want to make sure that we mention we are still doing the coat drive this year.
Yes.
So anywhere in Dufferin County, we'll have drop-off locations in Shelburne, Orangeville, and Grand Valley for adult and kids outerwear this year. So this year we've kind of expanded. We would love spring stuff, fall stuff, winter stuff.
Yeah.
And this is again to fill the need in our community and mainly our schools for the little ones, because it's tough on a lot of people right now. So start gathering up your stuff and make sure you follow our page and stay tuned, and we will announce when the drive starts, which is actually Monday,
18th.
The 18th, Monday.
Yep.
Next Monday, and then where the locations will be. And we would appreciate anything that you have, and if you could help spread and share the word.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Don't forget to follow us at Behind the Sign Canada, and stay tuned for next month's episode.
It's good to be back.
Bye for now.
Oops, sorry, Jacqueline.
Sure. Is it done?
Woo! Yeah, it is.